I got this little blue window here that I got to look at, and I hope that hey, we're live.
Hey.
Welcome back to Champ Chat. It's been a while, mostly because it's been a hard time hunting champs. So I'm very excited to have this episode. As always, our show is brought to you in part by HCRealms.com. Check out HC Realms for your one-stop shop for all sorts of Heroclix information. The forums, the unit section is some of the most useful tools and communication centers for Heroclix. Also, check out the shop, and while you're there, put in the coupon code MARRIED while you're checking out for 10% off of your purchase. As well, we're brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out the Apex Insiders portion of the website. $3 a month gets you access to some of the higher quality articles from some of the best in the game, and myself. Every so often I do write an article as well. But without further ado, allow me to introduce this episode's champ, 2016 Canadian national champ, and I hope I pronounced this right, Kaneshiro?
Kenji.
Kenji, we'll go with Kenji. All right.
It's okay. Don't worry. My teammates get our names confused all the time as well. So, yeah.
All right. Well, the story everybody wants to know is the origin story when it comes to comic book characters. We all play comic book game. So, Kenji, give us a little bit of your origin story. When did you start playing Heroclix? And from there, what got you into competitive play?
So I started playing Heroclix way back during Infinity Challenge when the game first came out, actually, back when I was in middle school. I'm forgetting how old I was. But I played from Infinity Challenge to somewhere around Mutant Mayhem, dropped out around there. Then during college, I saw that my friends were playing Heroclix, and I was like, oh, well, maybe the game's better now. So I jumped back in around Batman, and, I've been stuck with it ever since. So I met up with Team Pusheen somewhere around Fear itself, I believe, getting into tournaments in the New Jersey area since I'm from New York. And from there, it's just been a matter of joining them at Nationals and Worlds and so forth and getting better as things went along.
Awesome. So a lot of people, they hear about teams in Heroclix. I mean, I have my own with the Metal Lab crew. You have Team Pusheen, there's Team Rubicon out there. How do you feel your team dynamic works as far as testing practice? How frequently do you test? And what is the test environment like without giving too much of the trade secrets away, of course?
Not a problem. Happy to share. Usually throughout the year, we're always, spitballing ideas and things like that. But it definitely, the actual play testing ramps up closer to the events. That's when people will make themselves more available as, pressure's getting on and so forth. So it's really just a matter of being able to share the ideas. And then once time starts to get shorter towards the events, being able to get out there and actually play your teams and so forth repeatedly. I think that's probably the most important thing about having a team, getting to really know the ins and outs of your teams versus a variety of other teams. Awesome.
Now, when it comes down to how frequently do you say, like, on average, like, so you say you do it more often towards the event, which is, I think, generally the concern. Do you guys meet weekly, bi-weekly, once every other week, or monthly? How does it work for you guys?
So for us, we definitely meet up at Highlander Games and Comics in Boonton, New Jersey on a weekly basis when we can for the events there. But in terms of practice, I would say it goes from maybe weekly in the month towards an event and then up to 2 or 3 times a week as we get closer to the week or 2 weeks before the event.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to spitballing ideas, how soon before the tournament do you guys find yourselves flip-flopping? Because I know a lot of players find themselves scrambling at the last minute to come up with the team that they're actually set on. We'll talk more in depth about your team a little later, but how frequently do you think that you're stuck, or days in advance until you actually make your final decision?
I think it differs based on the team member. Some of us maybe make a last-minute switch based on nerves and so forth, but for the most part, I think once we have committed to a team a few weeks in advance, we stick to some iteration of that team just because I think what time has proven for most of us is that what you throw on the board, you need to know how that team works more than have, let's say, a hard rock, paper, scissors counter to other teams that are out there. As long as you know the ins and outs of your teams, it's easier for you to play around your disadvantages. Awesome.
Now, every team has the brains in the background. Sometimes they're not the best players, but they do have the great ideas. Who would you say on Team Pusheen? Is there a member that kind of sits out there, or does everybody kind of get their fair say when it comes to building teams?
I think everyone on the team has their own unique take on things. In terms of maybe some of the brains that aren't seen as often lately, I think Brian Galley, you might know him for his Red Lantern, Arcade, and Grasshopper team. He's definitely our resident mad scientist when it comes to teams, and I'm looking forward to finally seeing him place at the top one of these days. But he was in top 32 of Worlds last year. Other than that, I would say Kenny is obviously probably the strongest player on our team. We consider him our coach. He definitely drives a lot of our playtesting and so forth. I try to keep humble, so I won't say anything about myself.
Well, I guess you get to be a little bit less humble now because you're here for a reason. So let's talk about that reason. Canadian Nationals. Give us a story about getting there. Like all the nitty gritty of it. Right before getting to the tournament, the planning sessions, everything like that.
Sure. So leading up to it, we knew that Uncanny X-Men was probably going to be the last legal set going forward into Nationals. So once that came out, that's when the playtesting and the team ideas really started cementing. For me, I was looking at how to stack bonuses to stats with Proteus. Because I like the idea of having it on Tomar 2 and then playing a Green Lantern battery so that he would get +2 to stats except for damage. Mm-hmm. So I play tested that a lot. I ended up playing that team actually the weekend before Nationals at the WizKids Open in New Jersey. Didn't go as well as I had hoped. But the other team that I was testing was that Metallo team. I had just sort of thought, well, I want to play the Green Battery. I like that new Metallo with Justin Safer. Let's see how this goes. So maybe a month and a half before Nationals, I put that team on the map, and I didn't think it was going to do too hot. And then I saw the ability to yo-yo with Metallo, sending him out with Justin Safert, attacking with the free attack, and then just moving back instead of attacking again. And that's when it sort of clicked with me that this could be a really strong team. So that is what led to sticking with Metallo. And the Green Battery was just a matter of looking at the top 8 teams in other tournaments and seeing, oh, there are so many teams that are using all these free actions. Why isn't the Green Battery more prevalent? And that's what led me to choose the resource. Yeah. But going into Nationals, I was still on the fence about whether or not I wanted to try the Tomar 2 team again or the Metallo team, and ultimately my teammates convinced me that Metallo was the way to go. And part of it was also that I hadn't seen Metallo in any of these top teams really, so I wanted to sort of make my mark there. Yeah, and I know that process of I've got 2 teams, and then it's like a hostage negotiation to decide on a team. It's like I'm so good with this team, but this one's just better. So I recognize that part of the process. So now that we're through this process, were you pre-qualified for this with a WKO placement, or did you have to go through? Hold on a second, I should see a race outside my window. What was the question again? Sorry, were you pre-qualified with WKO performance, or did you actually have to play in the qualifiers at this event? I actually did have to play at the qualifiers at this event. I was not pre-qualified. I was very, very fortunate with my qualifier pulls, pulling an Age of Apocalypse Chase Magneto, Proteus in my other pack, and I ended up putting the Proteus on Storm and fielding a Morlock who became an X-Men through Magneto's trait, so I played an X-Men theme team. Hey. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun to field in the qualifiers for sure. And you ended up placing top 4, I'm guessing, in that one, or? I believe I ended up placing second in that morning qualifier, so it was nice to have the afternoon to relax a little bit. Yeah, I know that. I got in fourth myself, so this is the first time I get to do this and share the story. So very nice. All right, so we go into the day of the big event. So we're qualified. You're content. You played some battle royales, had some fun, I'm sure. Smiled a couple times, I hope. At least by my loud, boisterous noise. For sure. So let's get into constructed. So tell us the story before getting into the top 8. So top 32. The first team was a rematch against. Actually, no, it was not a rematch because I didn't face Demetrius until later. I would say the hardest team I faced going into top 8 was a Green Lantern battery team with Nighthawk, 2 things that definitely counter a lot of what's going on with my team with Metallo, with the modifiers, and again, all the free actions going on. Yeah. And it was really a cat and mouse chase because I ended up winning map, or I put us onto Ranks, the big blocking terrain map from War of Light. And it was just a matter of, burying at the right times. He also had Banshee with Parallax on that team, as well as Entity on the Nighthawk and Atomica. So, I got in a few attacks with the Metallo on Atomica. He kept hitting Shape Change on the Nighthawk when I tried to go for Nighthawk. And I just wasn't getting the rolls, just a lot of 5s, a lot of 4s, even after the probs with the Atomica that my Metallo carries with him. So after a while, it was, getting close to time, and I was just like, you know what, I got to go for it. He also had a Brimstone back in his starting area for the Colossal Retaliation. So I, made my move to advance as fast as I could whilst keeping them protected with barrier from the wall and from the battery itself, and managed to get that last hit in on Brimstone, and that's how I ended up winning that game, taking out the Brimstone, and then time was called shortly after.
Oh, yeah, those tight games, they can get there. Even my first round was something like that, so I could relate. So... now that was it the first round, or?
I believe that was the second round. I'm very sorry. I'm forgetting the first round I faced in the top, before the top 8. But it was that match, and then facing Demetrius, who I had a rematch with in top 8. Demetrius was fielding 2 Mystiques, and
Malice?
it was Malice, and there was an Ophidian on one of the Mystiques, and it was an Orange Battery. Yeah. And Proteus was on the Malice. He had admitted going into it that he had not understood the ruling about Proteus knocking off one of the entities on the Mystiques if they were the last eligible character for it beforehand. So I think the team wasn't working exactly as he had hoped it would, but also being able to call Pulse Wave on Metallo was a pretty big counter to what was going on with Mystique there. So that ended up working in my favor pretty well, and he didn't expect that the first time. Going into the top 8, obviously, he knew how the Pulse Wave worked, how the team worked, so he put up a lot more of a fight during that game. And that game also was extremely close, went very close to the end before points were starting to be scored, but ultimately went in my favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Demetrius is referred to him locally as Jimmy. He actually asked me quite a few questions about his team, except for the specific one that you just mentioned with regards to equipment moving into another character who's equipped already. I was like, well, gotcha. He didn't ask. I thought everybody knew this part. So, yeah.
Live and learn. He seems like he was also a fairly new player, so props to him for making it so high up on the rankings. Definitely gave me some good games.
Yeah, Jimmy's been a fast achiever as far as the game's concerned. I met him, I believe, last year as far as some of the local competitive play, and he's come in hot. So he doesn't have very far to have to go to be up there. I'm not lying about that. So he's taking the game very well. So top 8, you've made it. I believe you were undefeated going in the Swiss rounds too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're fairly high seed, and let's talk about the top 8.
So top 8 again, that first match against Demetrius was a much better match that time. And then going into top 4, I was against you, Jason.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, that was you. So, fun times against Mix. I still can't pronounce the name. Mixes Pitlick. Mixes Pitlick. Okay. Mixes Pitlick, the shape-shifting Superman, or not shape-shifting, the shifting focus Superman, Indigo Battery, and
Clarion and Teakle.
Clarion and Teakle, there we go. Yeah. So I think, I'm not sure you anticipated the reach that my Metallo would have with the phasing teleport and the stat modifiers, but that game ended up being me just sending him out, getting that first hit in on Mixi, and
just call him Mixie.
Mixie, and taking advantage of why I have the Bulldozer on that team, because even when I have to call a power like Precision Strike or something like that on Metallo, with the Bulldozer, sometimes I can get in that +1 damage that I need through knockback damage, and that was a case where I needed that +1 damage to take out Mixie. So that, and from there, it was a matter of the shifting focus Superman being hampered by the green battery, not being able to shift, and then hypersonic in or running shot, things like that. And so he was the next target, and then finally Teakle and Clarion, because he has the Mystics. I always try to save the Mystics characters for last, especially on a team where if Metallo gets hit once, he loses that phasing teleport from Ion. So that was very important. That was actually the only game where Metallo was knocked off first click.
Well, I got that going for me then.
So props to you for that. And then
with my face.
and then finally, going into the grand finals with Ted, I was very, very excited to see my teammate across from me there. And he was fielding a Guy Gardner team with Proselyte, Indigo Battery, Element Man, and Atomica, so it was Justice League theme. And we had play tested a lot going into the event, obviously, so we had played, I believe, 1 or 2 games with this matchup before. The first match was totally in my favor because, again, he wasn't anticipating the reach that I had with my team, with Metallo. Not many people are expecting him to phase out for 11 and then make an attack, especially if I win map roll, which was the case. Again, I put him on ranks. Ranks was a very popular choice for me because of the blocking terrain. But that was just playtesting. So he knew how it worked this time. He knew how to advance slowly, how to protect his team with barriers and so forth to make sure that if I was going to hit him, my Metallo was going to be stuck there because he would have to break down a wall first and then attack. Unfortunately, he made one slight miscount in his placement, and that allowed for me to send out my Metallo and knock out his Atomica, and then retreat back. And the rest of the game was just a very tense sort of cat and mouse game again, to protect my team with barriers from the battery and from the wall. And placing myself such that he couldn't move and attack in the same turn because of those free action limiters from the green battery. And that game in particular was really tense because knowing how our teams operated, I knew that if I let him attack once, that was going to be enough. And he knew that if he misplaced even once, I was going to be able to get those points like I did with Atomica. So it just barely worked out in my favor. And, even though there weren't many attacks that game, it was really just the one attack from Metallo because Ted either hit shape changes or hit his anti-outwit on the green battery with his Guy Gardner, or with his damage power on Guy Gardner. So I wasn't able to get the optimal attacks that I wanted. Very few attacks that game, but still it was very, very tense.
Yeah, and that's one of those things I actually, looking back into my sealed game against Amber, is sometimes there's a game where it's a lot of posturing and not a lot of play, which won't be camera friendly, but at the same time, the two players know what's going on and know they very carefully have to play. So, some of the more experienced players tend to enjoy that type of play, that back and forth, tick for tack, barrier up, protect my butt, play it very carefully, play it close to the heart, and then explode. So.
It certainly had my heart racing during the game, I'll say that much.
Yeah. So now, after that, congratulations on your win at Canadian Nationals. Can't stress that enough. My driver was in a rush to get out since we were all out and decided that we should probably get out of there. And I didn't want to keep him up too late. Tom had done a long drive the night before to get there.
We try to be kind to our drivers as well on Team Pusheen. They definitely do us a great service.
Yeah.
Go Ted.
So now this isn't your first time in one of the bigger tournaments. We were talking before the show, and I forgot to mention it earlier. You placed fairly well at Worlds last year, if I remember correctly.
Yes, last year I placed 4th at Worlds with my Red Lantern Power Battery team with Alyosha. Yeah. So that was a fun team. We were talking about it a little bit before we started broadcasting, actually. It was Alyosha with ID cards and the Red Lantern Power Battery with Animal theme, because the way his trait is worded where he can give or special power, I'm forgetting which at this point, the power that lets him, when he takes a non-free action, you can give a free move action to the lion or to another friendly animal keyworded character. If he uses the ID cards to call in someone at the beginning of the turn, he's technically taken a non-free action and the beginning of the turn has not ended yet. So you can send out someone like Lockjaw, a full 11 squares, and it's still the beginning of the turn as a free action, and then poison. So I ended up being able to take advantage of that a lot, as well as move people out and with +3 speeds from cards like, or +2s from Manifold and from Nova ID cards. So just a lot of taking my opponents by surprise that way, and also taking advantage of the free actions from Gilyudkin, where if I give him the catapult from the power battery, I can free action, send out Rocket with telekinesis, and then power action to bring him back with that Gilyudkin in the same turn. So more slingshotting like I was doing with the Metallo team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's never okay to just go out, punch, and then leave your face open to be punched back. It's better to just, dodge back and not get shot in the face as well, right? So.
Absolutely.
It's a safe play. So when it comes to the Metallo, and everybody was caught off guard by it, especially the people who found it. Like, nobody thought Metallo was going to be the thing to win. Do you feel a little bit of pride in putting that character on the map?
Oh, absolutely. Metallo is one of those characters who, when he first came out, I was like, man, he's awesome, but he only has 3 range. I hope I can make him work. And, being able to find a way to make him work on a team like that, and, just liking the character in general from the comics and liking how the sculpt came out. He's one of those pieces that I'm all around quite in love with. So I was happy to make him work in the meta. Yeah.
Cool. And do you think even though your strategy used a couple figures that are still modern going into the new modern, do you think something similar is going to show up in the new modern, even at Worlds? Do you think a retooled version of your team does still have some legs in this upcoming meta?
Yes and no. I think that in general, free action characters are going to have a blast in the upcoming rotation, just because we're losing the green battery, we're losing Agent 13, so characters like Metallo, like Element Man, are really going to shine. As for this specific configuration of the team, I'm not sure if it'll have quite the legs to stand on. I think we might be looking at other characters like Krang, who innately can pick that colossal size and be able to avoid a lot of terrain that way. Personally, I'm looking at characters like Alexis, possibly, so that I can fit in a bigger secondary attacker as opposed to investing all my points in one robot character, since that Alexis already has the phasing teleport built into her movement, already has high movement, has prob as well. So I like the prospects of her with Justin. But Metallo and Justin, I think it could still be quite good, but I'm not sure if it could be as good, because you can't slow down your opponent with the green battery and let your tentpole characters function in the way that I was doing before. But like I said, we'll throw teams on the map in play testing and see how things work out.
Yeah, got to throw science at the wall and see what sticks, as I like to refer to it. So I have to ask this because consistently we get beat up by Americans up here, but we do have to ask, what do you think of our wacky meta up here?
I love it. I love to see different teams. I think that it takes a certain amount of creativity and even a little bit of bravery to field teams that you don't see commonly played. And we're all about that at Team Pusheen, trying out ideas and seeing how they work out. So I loved it.
All right. Did anything that you saw played against, or saw at another table, anything stick out as you particularly as just, oh wow, I wouldn't have thought of that, as far as teams are concerned?
I wouldn't have thought of that. Definitely Kenny's Phantom X team. Had I not been playtesting against it, I would not have anticipated being able to use Ant-Man and Phantom X to call Giant Reach with Ant-Man to make a close attack through Eva. I'm not sure if that had seen too much play before, but definitely I think that took a lot of people by surprise and would absolutely have blown me away had I seen that without playtesting Kenny beforehand.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now, much like myself, focuses on Worlds and the brand new modern that we have to see, which still includes Guardians of the Galaxy. So
yes, it does.
We do have to account for things that exist in that set. Do you have brand new ideas coming up? Do you still have a couple things you have to try it on the map? Do you got a ton of playtesting to do in the next, I believe it's 20 days that we have until then?
So going into the WizKids Opens and into Canadian Nationals, we definitely were focusing on those formats. So we're just starting to get into the team building process actually for post-rotation with Guardians of the Galaxy. So we have basically taken this week to sort of recover from Canada, but next week we're going to go into full playtesting mode, sort of break in some of the team ideas that we're forming this week. But I definitely think that the zombie team base is the main thing to keep in mind, just because it's going to be such a mountain to overcome with all these free actions going rampant and being able to call and bring out Super Scroll with solo adventure. Very, very intimidating.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you build your team now, you ask yourself, can I beat the zombie team base? And if the answer is no, back to the drawing board.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That's probably going to show up. I mean, by probably, I mean definitely. So on that note, before we get into the next question I wanted that pertains to Worlds, you got an option to tell WizKids to make me a figure as part of your prizing. Is it too soon, too late? Are you under NDA to tell us what you want, what you asked them to build, or?
I have not been contacted by anyone yet,
okay.
So I don't know what restrictions I have. Therefore, I'm trying to keep a little quiet about it. But as I mentioned when I was interviewed after the match in Canada, I'm a huge X Factor Investigations fan. So any of those characters, Madrox in particular, I love Madrox, love Layla Miller. I would love to see other versions of those characters, even though they already have pretty excellent versions from Wolverine and the X-Men. So we will see.
Yeah, I definitely tortured my friends for at least a month's worth of Madrox, and as I wrote them in plurals. And everybody always managed to hit Madrox Prime for 5 damage. It's like, all right, here's 5 of them now. Deal with it.
Yep. Great figure.
Yeah, so I can relate to your love of that comic. But as far as going into Worlds, I mean, you get to relax until the last day with the exception of possibly Team Worlds. So what are your plans? A lot of battle royales, a lot of side events, roam the floor. What are you planning on doing over in Origins?
Probably, like you said, a lot of battle royales, cheering on my teammates and checking in on them, seeing how they're doing, bringing them some water and food, because I know sometimes it can be hard to leave the tables at Worlds. Other than that, maybe looking to the side events for once, because I never get to look into the side events usually. I'm too busy trying to qualify, so it might be interesting to see what's going on with those.
All right. Now, I believe the qualifiers, similar to Canadian Nationals, are all sealed. And if they're keeping with trends, then the set should be X-Men. But I wasn't at Worlds last year. Was it like Canadian Nationals last year where there was occasional mixing in sealed, or?
As I recall, it was just the most recent set, but don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I can't recall specifically.
Okay. So let's say it's an ideal world, and X-Men does continue to be the most recent set because other than Civil War, that's it, right? It's just X-Men. And Civil War is out in a week, and they said Civil War is not legal for the constructed portion of the tournament. So that all said and done, what do you think of X-Men as a sealed set?
I think it's probably my favorite sealed set in a while. I think with World's Finest, while that was a fun sealed set, there were definitely a lot of top-heavy characters in the set that if you pulled them, your chances were pretty good. Obviously, you know, it's a player-based game, it's dice rolls, but there were some figures that absolutely made a difference in your game. With X-Men, of course, there are still going to be your power figures, but I think overall it's a lot more balanced. I think having the lower point cost versions of these main characters like Colossus, like Storm, makes for more interesting games and allows for more interesting abilities and lower point characters. So playing this set in sealed has been a blast through and through, and I'm still not tired of it yet. And usually by the 30th whatever booster you go through of a set, you're done with it. But no, I'm always excited to play Uncanny X-Men for sealed.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I have the entire collection of Uncanny X-Men at this point, and I'm still not sick of sealed with that set. And my common uncommon box of it is getting a little ridiculous.
Yes, that is for certain. I have a lot of Genoshan Magistrates and Chief Magistrates to go through at this point.
My broods are in my hands almost as fast as they're out of my hands. So.
Yeah, those seem to be the hot piece for the set. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of charging $10 a pop for them, see how many I can still sell.
Apparently, people will buy them. So
who knows? Oh man. So talking about worlds still, this new meta without a world without batteries. What do you think about that world? Are you excited for that world? Are you a little nervous about that world? Were you crutching too hard on the batteries?
I am really excited for that world. I think the batteries have had their time. I've gotten to play at this point the green battery and the red battery pretty thoroughly, indigo battery and play testing quite a bit. So I've had my time with them. I wish I could have made the White Lantern battery work, especially with Madrox. I was actually trying to do that pretty thoroughly, but didn't pull through. But in terms of a post-battery world, like I said, again, free action characters are going to be pretty rampant, whether it's Element Man, Super Skrull, Engineer, obviously. We're going to see a lot more of them back on the field. I think also with, Copycat and Highfather rotating out, there's a lot more freedom in terms of whether you're building a tentpole team that's really one character or you're building teams that rely on those sub 100 point characters now that Copycat can't steal them and ruin your team comp. I think there's a lot more freedom in team building. It's going to be a lot healthier for the game. Granted, you still have really powerful characters like Nick Fury and so forth, but I think that they are still pretty manageable going forward. The zombie team base is really the big threat in my mind, and I'm still sort of trying to figure out ways to overcome it, but we'll see. Yeah.
So you mentioned Nick Fury, and there's, I believe, 2, maybe 3 of them at most in the constructed portion of Canadian Nationals. Now, do you think part of that is that people know they have his number? People were confident that they could manage a Nick Fury. Do you think his days are numbered by players, and do you think we'll start to see a lot less of him?
I think for Canadian nationals, again, it's part of that environment of wanting to play unique teams, creative teams, and not fielding, such a popular character. But also, I think it's that people are starting to become more prepared for Nick Fury, banking on the fact that he'll show up. So you see teams like the Coriander team with the Outlaws ATA. That's a great team right there to counter Nick Fury, provided that there's no one higher point than him, but usually there's not. So I'm straying away from the question. I'm forgetting the question.
Oh, the question is, do you think that his days are numbered by just the mental game of it now?
I don't think his days are numbered. I think, if anything, he might see even a little more use, just because, again, we're going past rotation. We're seeing less and less of characters with improved targeting in the way that he has it, where he has most of it. So I think he'll still absolutely see play, maybe mostly as an ID card calling, because usually with Nick Fury, you just need him for that one good attack to call out that one power to cancel, whether it's maybe someone like Gluttony and making sure that they can't use that incredibly strong defensive power or stop click. Because he's one of the few ways to get around stop clicks at this point, to say that you can't use that. So I think his days aren't numbered quite yet. We're still going to see him, whether it's as an ID card or as a main character on a team. He's not done yet.
No. Yeah. And so there's still gonna be some players playing No Fear, and of course there's gonna be ID cards. We can't discount that factor, and that is very true, because he doesn't just cost 120; he costs 5.
Yes.
Sometimes that's his 2-point costs. So totally an awesome answer actually there. So now I went to Facebook when I announced this, and I did ask the fans to offer up some questions. So there are a few of those, and cool. Now I vet some of them sometimes. Other times I don't feel like it. And this is a week I watched as they appeared, but I didn't vet them. Okay. But most of them are pretty good, so you're okay. And
see what they got.
So we're gonna start with the first one. Now we have last name West. This guy has changed his first name on several occasions, so now he's going by Joka West.
Oh, he's Joka. Go with Joka. He's Joka. Yeah.
Yeah. Ask Kenji if he's going to unify the national titles this year. Triple H isn't going to like that. So are you going to make an attempt at U.S. nationals as well? Do you have the ticket in? Or
I don't have the ticket in, so I can't quite do that, actually. And even if I could, I wouldn't be making any posturing with that. Again, like I said, I try to keep pretty humble with it. So, yeah. Yeah,
I can relate to that. I've made it to Worlds, but I'm not allowed in U.S. nationals. What's going on? Huh?
Yeah, especially with them being back-to-back, maybe a little awkward with seeing some players out there. Oh, you didn't make it in? But,
So me and my buddies got a good laugh out of it, and it was totally worth it. So Jeff Bozeman asks, first of all, he leads in with, congratulations, Kenji. I watched you win while I watched a match streaming on Twitch.
Thanks,
what kind of advice can you give to those of us that would like to participate in high-level tournaments that want to start competing?
Other than, play testing, finding a group of people to really throw ideas against the wall with, which I think is really the most important thing, to know the ins and outs of your teams that way through playing it over and over again. I would say you need to sort of keep an open mind when it comes to different power combos and so forth. Like the Alyosha, when we were talking about with the ID card call-in. When Alyosha first came out, I was like, man, if only there was a way that he could, take a non-free action during the beginning of the turn. At the time, that seemed like something that would never happen. And then ID cards came out, and it clicked with me. I was like, here it is. So you need to be sort of anticipate the different combinations that might come out, in terms of what are the different things that can elevate a piece from being very good to absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Awesome. And then he also asks, what kind of preparation do you partake upon in preparing for a big tournament like you just won that you can share with us? So I guess you can go, if there's anything you do outside of the testing that we already had discussed in the interview earlier.
I guess it's really just being familiar with the majority of the pieces, honestly, and knowing, what pieces you want to rotate out for what to be optimal, min-maxing, So I would say combing through the HC Realms unit section, searching for those, using the advanced search option and saying, okay, well, I have this many points left. Let me see what's available and search like characters 75 points and under. If you're looking for a specific keyword, search that keyword. So I would just say, never feel like you've exhausted your options with how you can build a team. Always look for ways in which, you can make it better through different characters.
All right. That's great advice. Next, Oh, here's a big fan of the show. One Kenny Pena.
Oh, that guy. Okay, yeah.
He leads in Konnichiwa Kenji-sama. Congratulations on your Canadian National Championship victory against fellow teammate Ted. I'm Jazintsek. Ted.
Ted.
I'm
We'll
going
go
to
with
ask
Ted.
him in person how to pronounce his last name. But he does have Jasek?
Yes.
Jasek. All right, I'm going to remember that. So he has 2 questions for you, oddly enough. Didn't have the nerve to ask you to your face.
Yes.
Your question 1. Your team was essentially a one-man army with one main attacker in Metallo who relied on free actions, his trait, and Safer's free action to get around and deal damage. Were there any matchups that may have given you pause? And if so, did you at least have a strategy to contest them?
Definitely looking out for teams like Nighthawk and the Green Battery, and unfortunately I faced one that had both, but fortunately I overcame it. I think what I was thinking about if I did come across that matchup was the fact that even though I don't get those stat bumps, I still have the ability to move and attack in one free action. Because it's not any sort of action to call the powers on Ion, so I can still get phasing teleport. I can still use Justin Safer to move and attack as one free action, and then move back on his own action. So I still have that yo-yo effect. And even with Nighthawk, I can't get the modifiers that I want, but I can still choose a power through his free action to choose a power or get +1 stats. So I still have that power advantage going there. That's definitely one of those matchups that gave me pause, and that's how I plan to deal with it, yeah.
Awesome. And his second question, you always wear the same hat. Is there a story behind the hat? Do you ever take it off? Do you have multiples of the same hat? Is somebody feeding you information secretly through your hat?
Mm-hmm. Well, there isn't really too much of a story behind the hat other than that it has a Clyde's Hickory Smokehouse on it, and Clyde is my father's name. But beyond that, yes, I do have a second one that I keep just in case this one eventually, breaks down. I can tell you for sure it's not the same color that it was when I purchased it. But yeah, no really big story behind the hat. Yeah.
All right. He does also go on to say, once again, congratulations on your victory. And remember that Senpai has noticed you. Love Court Sensei. P.S. Long live Team Pusheen and remember to roll.
Thanks, Senpai.
Of course, Joka West throws in and asks, is the hat Cerebro?
It feels like it sometimes. It's definitely essential to me.
And I am being swarmed with Pusheen stickers and Ted correcting me on the pronunciation right after you did.
Yeah.
All right. So Christopher Smotherman leads in, congratulations, sir. Hope to see you at Origins if you plan on attending. My question
Which
to
I
you,
do.
My question to you, do you see yourself playing a similar version of your team in the future after rotation? If so, what will you use in place of a battery? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, of course, but I'm just curious as to what your thoughts on the newer resources and which ones you'll see winning over the next few months.
Sure. I think we're going to see more stalling teams with the box in terms of characters like Mystique, who are very, very defensive, very difficult to attack them. But in terms of what I'm thinking with this team, definitely, again, exploring different robot options, lower point cost options, so I can fit in more attackers since we're seeing the advent of cheaper attackers and so forth. So Alexis is definitely my #1 pick so far for that. Maybe throw Jocasta on her for the precision strike. In terms of a resource, the round table is one that I've wanted to make work for a long time. I've tried playing it at a few big rocks beforehand. Didn't work out too well, but I'm hoping in a post-battery world, the round table will function a bit better. It does have some phasing teleport options, so if you're trying to make Metallo work still, that's possible. You get a 1/3 chance between Zatanna and Vision to roll that phasing teleport. But yeah, I'd say the round table is the main resource that I'm looking into going forward.
Awesome. And then next we have Fabricio Granados. I want nothing else but to congratulate you for your victory. Love to see all the teams and games. My question is this. Which figure are you hyped about in Civil War or Superior Foes of Spider-Man?
Well, for Civil War, it's definitely Taskmaster. He's one of my favorite characters in the comics, and I'm excited to see that he's gotten a solid representation in this set. When I came back in during Batman, it wasn't too long after that Chaos War rotated out, and they didn't really get to play that Taskmaster too much, even though he was quite good. So I'm excited to get one in Modern again, and one that can use equipments quite well that are linked to his dial, because you can move it to whatever click you want at the beginning of the turn, I think it is. And while that 2 damage might scare some people away, again, most equipments have 3 base damage, so you can bump him up as well. I'm excited to see what I can do with him.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's about it for the fan questions. But let's talk a little bit about this feature with Civil War and its format, because it's a new thing that they're trying. Although the Battle Royale format, you guys like yourself and myself have been to the bigger events, we're familiar with it. What do you think of their version of the draft, which is, of course, here you're pro-registration, I'm anti-registration, deal with whatever I had. And how do you think it's going to fare in the Battle Royale within the set itself?
Well, I think already we're seeing a lot of people comment on the balance in the set, in terms of they're seeing these dials, and across the board they seem to be on a really even playing field. Maybe not when it comes to some of the prize pieces like Sentry, who seems ridiculous, but I'm a big fan of the Battle Royale format. I think how they're doing it in particular in a thematic way is how they should be doing the storyline organized play events, where you're having characters face off in thematic battles. It's what it should be all about. And I'm glad that they're encouraging that with the format. I'm excited to see how it plays out. As a judge for a venue in Connecticut, Gamers Gambit and Danbury, hit us up. But I still have not completely wrapped my head around how we're supposed to be playing it, just because, again, I've been focusing on team building and so forth. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how it works out. I think that having Battle Royales be the main format should be interesting either way.
Yeah. I personally, I'm a big fan of the way it just kind of plays itself. It's, you take a brick and you say, I got 2 tables, you guys play, here's your prizes, deal with it.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, I've just given them an hour's worth of play. Should I plan a tournament for today? It's a weird balance.
It is, for sure.
Yeah, so it's about all the questions I have today. And I want to thank you very much for joining us today, Kenji. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure getting mud stomped by you at Canadian Nationals in the semifinals, and that's okay, because these things happen.
Congrats on your 3rd place. I'm still going to see you at Worlds, and you get to Battle Royale up with us as well, right?
Absolutely. If you're looking for myself and Kenji, we'll be the loud Battle Royale, but that's just because of me. Is there anything you want to say on the way out, Kenji?
I think, again, find the people, the play groups that work best for you. The players in this game are what make it as fun as it is. I don't just play it to be competitive. I play it because I, really enjoy playing it with other people. So definitely try to foster healthy play groups in your local venues, and, it can only go well from there.
That is great advice for everyone in this game. And on that note, folks, I want to thank you guys for joining us live. If you're watching in the archive, I also want to thank you for watching us and supporting us as you will. Once again, we're brought to you in part by HCRealms.com. While you're in the shop section there, put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase. As well, we're brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out the Apex Insiders Premium site, $3 per month for some premium content. Awesome articles written by awesome people. They're probably going to start poking at Kenji for some articles soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll see about that. I should also plug my channel, Remember to Roll, by the way. We do videos with Team Pusheen and so forth. Look us up. We're on YouTube. Remember to Roll. Yeah.
Remember to Roll. And that's just going to be, I'm going to check it out right now, youtube.com/remember to roll. I know I'm subscribed, but I have to, that's not, I'm going to have to check it out later and share a link in the comments below.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
What I didn't check was the comments in YouTube before I started outroing. I'm totally the worst unprofessional person in the world.
Not at all.
No, we're good. We had none. It was a great prediction.
All's well.
Yeah. Also, though, if you do want to support the channel directly, check us out at patreon.com/MadeWithClicks, and check that out for access to some cool content as well. June 4th will be our next patron hangout, so it's about a week from tomorrow. Or sorry, did I say June 4th? Because I meant June 3rd. June 4th is provincials and states for the ROC. I'm going to be busy.
So many events coming up, seriously, though.
I know. It's so much going on. Up here we have a major event every 2 weeks. I have something to deal with, like from Canadian Nationals. So it's Canadian Nationals, get a week off, and then ROC States. Okay, next after that, a week off, and then Worlds.
It's a good problem to have, though.
I know having too much Heroclix is a great problem to have. So since I've tried to outro several times, Kenji, one more time, thank you again for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to seeing you at Worlds in a couple weeks. And to those of you watching, thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful evening.